If you're making dance music or any kind of urban electronic music, you want massive bass going on. So how do you get that? I'll tell you now. So you've got this bass going on in the track. The problem is with bass is that really when you're presenting a track to a mastering engineer, you want to put loads of low end on and you want to try and get it tight and do your thing on it. But really, if there's a low cut going on, you're probably best leaving that to a mastering engineer who can like hear what's going on in the low end. But really you want more bass when you're a mastering engineer and less tops. And the reason for that is because you want to be able to craft it and mold it and shape it. And if it's not there, if you think of it like clay, where you've got a bit of clay and you start adding bass on, it just brings up all the rubbish. It never kind of sticks right. It just kind of falls apart. It's not this solid sound. You're just kind of adding in places and it doesn't really work because you can't really add what isn't there. You can enhance what's there, but you can't really start adding loads and loads because it's just going to sound boomy and horrible. So what you're better off doing is just putting more bass on, leaving more bass on, because the mastering engineer can turn around to you and say, can you turn it down a bit, or can you change this in it? If you're making a track, make the track so that there's plenty of bass left on it. That way the mastering engineer can grab it and shape it. Obviously, I always tell everybody all the time to get the track sounding the best you possibly can in your room. But if you are worried about the bass, then my suggestion is leave it on. So then how do you then craft that bass if you're mastering it yourself or if you're a mastering engineer? So if I've got loads of bass going on, I'm going to have to grab hold of that somehow, but I don't want to grab hold of the rest of the track. So the way I'm doing that is with a multiband compressor and I'm grabbing the low end and I'm trying to sort that out. So I'm sometimes monoing that signal, not all the time because most bass is in mono, and also if it's electronic music, yes, it can sound tighter when it's in the center. If it's like guitar music, then it actually sounds nice when you add a bit to the width. So that, because it can start sounding a bit thin and start taking away, you've got to watch where you're doing it. But my thing is to grab it and try and shape it a little bit with some EQ. But really the key to monster bass is to have it there in the first place. So if it's not there as a mastering engineer, then it's nice to ask for some more bass because then you've got something to play with. Or it's best to just leave it on there. If you're the producer or the mix engineer, leave it on there for the mastering engineer to grab hold of it, shape it, and they can always ask you for a little less bass if it's mentally over the top or boomy or whatever. Then they can always ask for a few tweaks. But if it's not there in the first place, to add it on and to try and then put it on afterwards, it's very difficult even as a producer because you've kind of made the track around the bass and that's kind of made up the mix and made up the balance of the mix. So it's good to keep that in mind as you're making the tune, that you want to leave a bit of bass on and keep it there. So that's my top tip for monster bass. If you like this kind of stuff, then please make sure you subscribe to the channel and go to streaky.com, sign up for the Audio Anoraks newsletter. It's where I give tips, tricks and giveaways of plugins and all kinds of stuff. I get discounts off of equipment and plugins, so that goes out. It's only once a month, this newsletter, and it's the Audio Anoraks newsletter. So streaky.com to sign up to that. Goodbye. Thanks for watching. Till tomorrow. See ya.